I have decided to do my classical conditioning project on BKLOs 16 through 20. BKLO number 16 is what is classical Pavlovian conditioning. Now, this is a learning process that occurs through associations between an environmental stimulus and a naturally occurring stimulus. Now, an example of this could be that some students in grade school they associate a certain class that with fear. They don't like the class because maybe in, say, math class, they were punished or humiliated by the teachers, so for the rest of their career in school, they just don't like math. Now, moving on to BKLO number 17, what is an unconditioned stimulus? Now, an unconditioned stimulus is something that would unconditionally, naturally, or automatically trigger a response. For example, say you eat some bad food and you start to feel sick. The unconditioned stimulus would be the bad food. Or let's say that someone blows in your eye and you blink. That would be an unconditioned stimulus. Now, moving on to BKLO 19, what is an unconditioned response? This is a response that occurs reflexively or naturally to a stimulus. So like I talked about in BKLO 17, a puff of air and then you reflexively blink, the puff of air would be the unconditioned stimulus and the blinking would be the unconditioned response. Or you eat some bad food and you start to feel sick. The bad food would be the unconditioned stimulus and the feeling sick would be the unconditioned response. Now, moving on to BKLO 19, what is a conditioned stimulus? Now, a conditioned stimulus is a previously neutral stimulus that, after becoming associated with an unconditioned stimulus, eventually comes to trigger a conditioned response. Now, an example of this was, say you drive the same route to school every single day, but one morning a car runs the red light on Sorority Row and hits you. Now, after that, every time you approach the intersection on Sorority Row, your heart rate begins to race and you become really sweaty. Now, the intersection on Sorority Row would now be the conditioned stimulus. A conditioned stimulus is created when we learn to react to something because we associate it with something else. Now, moving on to BKLO 20, last but not least, what is a conditioned response? Now, a conditioned response is something that's triggered by a conditioned stimulus. Now, have you ever heard a buzzing in your ear or something like that, and you just instinctively just swat around you and stuff because you've been classically conditioned to, when you hear a buzzing noise in your ear when you're outside or inside or anywhere really, you automatically think, oh, there's a bug near me, so it's just instinctive to just swat like this to try and get the bug away from you. And if you're like me and hate bugs, you just go crazy. Well, that's the end of my project. I hope you enjoyed hearing about BKLOs 16 through 20, and I hope you learned something. I'm going to go ride a roller coaster now.